Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat?
We are all assuming that there's going to be massive turnover in the NFC South. It's still a little startling when you see it. Bill Barnwell, ESPN.com, has a piece up ranking the head coaching openings in the NFL for 2024, and these are all obviously assumed except for like Carolina, where you already have an opening. But it's still startling when you see literally every job in the NFC South on this list, where that could be the reality, that every team in the division is hiring a new coach. Bill Barnwell from ESPN, good enough to join us here for a couple of minutes. Hey, Bill, thanks for the time, man. How are you?
Of course. How are you guys doing?
Doing really well. Let me start there. I'm sure it has happened at some point. I can't remember. Can you remember a time where an entire division fired their head coaches in the same offseason?
Man, I was going to ask you guys. I'm not sure, but I mean, maybe it's not going to happen. Maybe the team that does end up winning this division holds on to their coach, because it is hard to justify firing a coach when they've won the division, made it to the postseason, and inevitably one of these three teams in the top of the NFC South is going to have to win the division. But it does seem crazy, you know? I mean, this is a division where I think we all came into the year expecting it to be, maybe 9 wins get you there. Now it feels like 7 or 8 might get you the division title.
We've seen it before in this division. Carolina won it in 2014 as a 7-9 team. We saw Seattle as a 7-9 team win their division back in 2010. The Bucs last year. You're right. Well, the Saints got beast-quaked back in 2010 by a 7-win team, so that one will always sting. Bill, you rank what you perceive will be the coaching openings, the 10 jobs there. The worst among them being Carolina. This feels obviously, but let me ask why.
Yeah, I mean, you say obvious, and I guess we shouldn't count it against the new guy coming in, that he's not going to have the first overall pick and whatever that's going to yield, whether it be, a great young quarterback or a load of draft picks in a trade. But it is a huge asset that's missing. When you think about Carolina, they're going to have to add significant pieces on both sides of the football. And I think the other part that comes into play here, we don't normally think about when it comes to coaching decisions and coaching jobs, is the ownership group. And David Tepper in Carolina, obviously very successful, hedge fund manager, businessman, but that team needs to rebuild. They're going to need several years to be good. And I don't know that David Tepper has shown the patience to endure that. So if you're a coach who, has other options, you want to go someplace where you think, okay, I need 3 years to build this team, and there's a decent chance I'm going to get fired in year 2. I just think, that doesn't necessarily lend itself to the most stable organization.
Bill, the opposite end of the spectrum is the best potential job that's open, and you have it as Chicago. Again, one that probably feels obvious, but I'll ask again, why is Chicago the best potential job open if they move on from Matt Eberflus?
Yeah, I think you look at the draft capital. You have the most likely first overall pick, I believe a 99% chance, according to ESPN's data, of ending up with one of the first 2 picks in this year's draft. So you have a lot of leverage. You either have Justin Fields, who you feel good about, and then you have multiple first-round picks coming to you via trade, or you draft a quarterback. You draft Drake May or Caleb Williams, both of whom are expected to be, blue-chip prospects. You have Justin Fields, who has trade value. He's obviously a useful quarterback. I think we're still trying to figure out what he is, but got to figure they would get something significant back for him as well. That team, some promising pieces, still a lot to work with there, but a division that is, burgeoning, but not exactly, the NFC East or the AFC East when it comes to quality of division. So I think a lot of reasons to be optimistic about where the Bears are going to end up, mostly because of that trade with the Carolina Panthers.
He's on Twitter at Bill Barnwell. So Bill, if the Panthers being the worst job open and the Bears being the best job open is obvious, the middle is kind of where I think we would say, okay, well, that's where the discourse may come in. So everyone here is clearly interested in the Saints, which after the Panthers, you go Raiders, and then 8th is where you find the New Orleans Saints. Considering recent success and ownership stability and patience with the coach, I would assume the Saints might be higher. Why aren't the Saints higher among desirable spots that we assume are going to be open?
Well, it's that old thing that nobody's going to enjoy hearing about, but there are those cap concerns, and they've been able to restructure and continue to kind of kick the can down the road, but they're now locked into a lot of deals for guys who are not necessarily playing at the level those deals initially entailed. That's a concern. They're the oldest team in football on a snap-by-snap basis, which, is concerning. There's obviously young talent there. There's guys like Pete Werner, guys like Chris Olave, the Ryan Ramczyks and Marshawn Lattimore are still not, they're in the prime of their careers, which is great. But you have a lot of money spent, and certainly the ownership group has been comfortable spending money, which is a great asset for a coaching opportunity. But you have Saints fans who, rightfully so, are used to winning football games. They're used to the Drew Brees, Sean Payton era. And this team has been slowly getting worse because they've been locked with the same guys, because of the age, because outside of Carr, they were not able to add significant pieces to the roster each year. And those are all concerns. I think there's a multi-year period coming for me in terms of rebuilding, and that's going to be tough. So I think the Saints are obviously great fans, great stadium, great place to play. But I think it's going to take a while for them to get where they need to get.
Bill, it's interesting. From a Saints fan's perspective, everything you're saying rings true, but it's almost like someone is just pointing out all of your inadequacies in a very public setting that we all know exists. So, Bears' best job, Chargers' second best job, and that makes a lot of sense. You got a franchise quarterback, you got a great city, all this sort of stuff. The third best job possibly available you have is the Atlanta Falcons, if they do move on from Arthur Smith. I look at Atlanta, and I don't necessarily see a super talented roster. I do see a bad division. Why? Why would Atlanta be that much of a desired landing spot?
Well, first you make me criticize the Saints, and now you're going to have me say nice things about the Falcons.
Your Twitter is about to be
liked in the state of Louisiana.
Your Twitter is about to be a disaster, Bill. At Bill Barnwell, by the way.
Yeah, at Bill Barnwell, if you want to yell at me. I think there's flexibility. They spent a lot of money last offseason, but the defense has been very good this year. The defense really underrated. I think they're in the top 5 in terms of points per drive allowed, which is really impressive given how bad they've been on defense year after year. They have a very stable ownership group. I think Arthur Blank, probably to a fault, has been patient with his coaches in years past. Because they'll usually let guys go a year or two too long as opposed to getting rid of coaches early. That's a positive. They've been very comfortable spending money, which has helped. But obviously the big concern there is the quarterback situation. And I think you can make a case that, you don't have Desmond Ridder. You have Desmond Ridder who you don't have a lot of faith in. You don't really have a clear path to one of those, May or Caleb Williams guys. You probably don't want to trade, 3 first-round picks. They're probably not a quarterback away, but they do have flexibility. And I think, given what I've seen from Saints fans this year and how they feel about Derek Carr and the financial situation they're locked into with Derek Carr, or likely to endure with Derek Carr, maybe not having anything is better than having the wrong thing. So I think there's a lot of young talent there. But certainly, like you said, I think once you get out of the top 1 or 2 and the bottom 1 or 2, a lot of it comes down to just, a few different factors that you could put them in many different orders. And, the Falcons were 5th or 6th. I wouldn't think you were crazy. If the Saints were 5th or 6th, I wouldn't think you were crazy. But I do think the Falcons are on the higher end as opposed to the lower end.
Quick thought on Tampa, who you have as the 6th best potential available opening?
Yeah, I just think concerns about the age of that team. I think they're sort of, that they also don't have a quarterback, but they're also in kind of rough cap shape. A lot of free agents coming this offseason. I think they're sort of stuck between 2 minds, right? The Saints, we know, they're trying to win right now. The Falcons, they're more of a future team. The Bucs, they sort of have one foot in both, both rooms to figure out whether they want to be a team that goes all in and tries to win over the next couple of years, or a team that wants to take a step back and maybe rebuild and move on from some of their older players.
Bill, before you go, and he's on Twitter at Bill Barnwell. Bill Barnwell, ESPN, is our guest. Of the 10 jobs that you list there, if you had to guess, who's most likely to keep their current coach?
Ooh, that's a good question. Is it crazy to say the Patriots? I know there's been reports about Bill Belichick. that to me is one of those things where I have to see it to believe it. You know, I've lived in the Massachusetts area off and on for the past 20 years. I've seen this team. I've seen how good they've been consistently. I know they're not good right now, but I just, it's so hard for me to imagine walking into the room and saying, yeah, Bill Belichick, you're gone. Especially because think about if all those 10 teams fire coaches, you're going to need to hire 10 new coaches from the pool of coaches that are out there. So I know Bill Belichick has his faults, but just can't imagine that you're going to hire a better coach than the guy you're letting go of in a multi-time Super Bowl winner.
Great stuff as always. He's on Twitter at Bill Barnwell. Give him a follow. Read his stuff at ESPN.com. Great piece up right now, ranking NFL head coaching openings for 2024, the best and worst jobs. Bill, we appreciate it, man. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.